Hi, Jeff Munn, Creating Extraordinary Futures. I want to use this video to lay a little bit of foundation for my work, to give you a little bit more background. And I did this, if you've seen the how to use this channel video, there'll be a little bit of overlap with this video. But I wanted to at least take a step back so that if you are interested in pursuing a working relationship, in particular a one-on-one coaching relationship, this is the video that'll go into a little bit more detail around how that would work. So I think you know from the other videos that you've seen from my writing that the basis of my work is pointing to the what I call the inside out realization and the power of that realization. And this is to understand on a fundamental level that you're creating the world moment to moment, that the only way that we human beings actually work is that we are, yes, taking in information from the outside sensory data, sight, sound, taste, smell, etc. And in our brains, in ways that neuroscientists still argue about, we are creating a representation of the world. And that representation is, your representation is unique to you. My representation is unique to me. There are things that we can point to, typically things, I can point to a tree outside my window, and you can point at that same tree and we can agree that it's a tree. But there are other things that you and I can point to that are really made of thought. Things like honesty, trust, financial planning, anything that we call science is a model that scientists have built and agreed upon that is subject to change. It is not solid. It is not real in any conventional sense of the word. You can't point to it as a separate physical reality. And so most of us unconsciously walk around thinking that our representation of the world is, of course, the solid one, the real one. And how could you not see that? When we have this fundamental insight, this fundamental realization that, I'm literally making this up in every moment, it suddenly becomes a lot less serious, because we can observe that in any given moment I can think about the same set of facts or circumstances or people totally differently than I did even 5 minutes ago. And if that's the case, how can my representation of the world be solid or true? And if I understand that about myself, then suddenly I get that you're doing the same thing. And I don't even have to convince you that you're doing that in order for my experience of the world to change, to get a lot easier. When I see someone struggling, when I see someone angry, now it's just like, they're having a bad day. They're having a thought storm. My stepson, he had a really tough time emotionally when he was, in early adolescence, and we'd call it a thunderstorm. And in the moment, there wasn't a heck of a lot to do about it. But just knowing that it would pass helped him a lot, helped us a lot as we were parenting him. The other thing that happens is that as we get that we're living in this thought-created reality, that everyone is living in this thought-created reality, we spend a lot less time trying to manipulate it. I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of time, a lot of years thinking that, well, if I just thought the right thoughts, my experience of life would be better. And it didn't go very well. I still catch myself occasionally, trying to do that, trying to make myself feel better in the moment instead of just realizing, kind of like when you have a cold. I mean, you can do a little bit, but mostly you just need time to pass and it heals itself. That's true of your thinking too. In fact, it can be a wonderful warning sign that you're not in a good spot, that you're not getting good guidance, that you shouldn't be making important decisions if you're really, pissed off about something. For me, that red flag is a sense of righteous indignation, which boy, it really feels like I should be doing something in the moment. And yet I've gone down that path enough and had it turn out badly enough that I know now if I'm feeling righteous indignation, it's hold off, give it a few minutes, give it a day, see how it looks to you then. And so when we start to do that, we spend a lot less time trying to manipulate our thinking. We spend a lot less time thinking generally. And what I have found for me and for my clients is there's this quiet sense. Some people have called it the still small voice of God that knows what to do, that is always available when it's not covered up by the other noise in our heads. And that not only do we have access to that, do we have that as part of the operating system, but the rest of the exhausting mental manipulation that we've been doing, as it falls away, life just becomes a lot easier. So what I'll say to my clients is, this is about pointing toward more ease and more impact. Because as all the noise falls away, you begin to discover that you already knew what was really important, and that you already knew how to point yourself in that direction, and that all you really need to do is point yourself in that direction, and it'll become obvious what to do next. You don't need the full plan. You don't need the full blueprint to start building, that house, that structure, that dream, whatever it is that you're wanting to create. There's an airplane outside, I wonder. Apologize if you can hear that buzzing. But it just becomes obvious, one thing, and then the next thing shows up. And then the next thing shows up. And suddenly, that thing that you've been wanting to create, or sometimes that thing that is in some kind of unanticipated way even more amazing, emerges in the world. No sleepless nights, no stressing out or overthinking. That is what I find available through looking in this direction, and in particular through looking in this direction with someone who has already seen a lot looking in this direction, who kind of knows the pitfalls, the dark alleys, the blind corners, and frankly the things that we just do because we're humans and we do stuff and it's normal and we should just cut ourselves some slack. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that gives you a little more of a sense of what direction I look in with my clients. I think a lot of the things that people come to a coach trying to fix are really symptoms that, signs that they really don't see how their experience is created. They really don't see that the idea of bolstering their own identity, making themselves look good, whatever you want to call it, creating something to prove themselves. When you really get that what we are is the bigger intelligence, not the thoughts, but the thinker. The idea that some thoughts could somehow make that thinker better, it just seems kind of silly. So when someone comes to me with stress, I point them to this. When someone comes to me wanting more executive presence, wanting to look more authentic, wanting to, be a better leader, get more buy-in from their group, be better at sales, all of it comes down to this notion of making an identity look better instead of recognizing that the identity itself is just made up of thoughts, of thinking. It's not solid. It changes every moment. And what's really cool is when we don't have to protect that, when we don't have to make it look a certain way or feel a certain way, when we just allow whatever is arising to come up and out and through this physical presence that we have, amazing stuff happens. If that sounds intriguing to you, please reach out, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.